Rhino. While still, I mean, these are basic tools, but it is much more, they're a bit more complex in the way they work. But the first thing I want to talk about is this issue that I pointed out here with the, and I think I lost it again, with the non-radius shapes. So maybe, hopefully for some of you, this is, just repeat for you. But let's say you drew an object, but you didn't draw it smooth, right? You just used orthogonal or straight lines, right? But the object actually has soft edges. So what you can do now is use the command fillet, and you can give it any radius. So right now it's at 1 inch. And now you can radius all of these pointed corners, so that when you model it, it will have the soft edges versus the very sharp seams. So fillet, which is different than fillet edge, so be aware of that. Fillet you use for 2D drawings. Fillet edge we will talk about. I believe I may have mentioned it the last time. Fillet edge, it can only be done to complex surfaces. So edges of surfaces or solids. Okay, so let's get started on. Oops. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is the sweep command. So there's sweep 1 and sweep 2, and they're slightly different from each other. There's extrude along curve, fillet edge we talked about, Boolean. So you're going to want to use also the Boolean commands here in order to subtract or to merge objects together. And then there will be some other commands we can talk about. So sweep 1. So we discussed what sweep, I believe maybe I didn't point it out before. I think the last time we talked about revolve and loft, and maybe we did talk about sweep, but anyway. So you're going to want to use your drawings again. So your elevation and your top view and even the side views are going to be necessary for these complex objects, because firstly, they're not the same radius. They're not symmetrical. They're not symmetrical through. Maybe symmetrical in one direction, but not in the other. There are handles. There are other aspects. So you started to draw side views of these objects in the assignment, but you may need to go back and not necessarily go all the way back, but you may need to add more information in order to be able to accurately model these objects. So you can see, there's a variety of shapes here, and cylinders, boxes, they are not that shape. So we're going to use other commands. So the first one to try is sweep. So sweep will take any curve, and literally what's happening is it will extrude a line based off of shape. So let's say in this case I'm trying to model this object here, which is, if we look back over here, maybe I need to Move this. Sir. So I'm trying to model this one, the easier one of the, others. And sweep 1 is going to be the command to use here. So what sweep will do, so the command is sweep 1. So again, there's sweep 1, sweep 2, and it will tell you exactly what you need to, the information you need to give it. So the rail is going to be the kind of direction that it's going to extrude, essentially. The next, so the rail, so that's going to be the kind of the shape I want it to be, or the direction. And then it's asking for the cross-section curves. So while this one's going to be in the direction I want it, this one is the actual shape or the outline that I want to be extruded around. So we'll see what happens. Oops. So this one, as when you input it, it gives you the next input value. So now you can see here, there is my preview of what that's going to look like. I can also ask it to rebuild. So I can give it more points and values so that it gets more accurate to the shape that I want. I can ask it to refit so you can see what's happening. So here in the rebuild cross sections, and the rebuild cross section is literally these ones here, the cross sections, how many there are. Refit cross sections. So now it's kind of more tight to the shape here. So I'm going to use this one. So that's sweep 1. So again, sweep 1 is going to be, the difference will be in the number of cross sections you give the sweep. Oh, sorry, the number of rails. You can give it actually any number of cross sections. So I could actually say, at this point, it pinches here like this. And then down here, maybe is going to be slightly wider. So if I do this again, select the rail, which is this one, and now my cross section, so I can give it multiple. Oops, that didn't work. Determinant. Okay. Let's try again. Select the rail, cross sections. Okay, I think I messed this one up. Okay, sorry. The rail in this case is this shape here, so I can only give it one. I can give it multiples of these of the cross sections. So I'll show you how that can work. So here I have, oops. Okay. So here I have these outlines that I want to use in the sweep. So let's see if we can get this to work. Sometimes it's a little bit of experimenting. So here's the cross section. That's the direction. And now I'm going to give it, oops, sorry, that's the rail. I'm giving it the cross sections. So I'm giving it multiple here. So sweep. And that's maybe a bit closer to the shape that bottle actually is here. But there's some issues with my curve, so I'm going to go back. So these curves that I'm using were taken from the elevation. So I use this outline, but I separated the outlines that I'm going to use in that command. So in this case, I'm going to ungroup this, and what I would do, because it's one right now, I could explode it, or I can split it up. So I take this first, the item I want to split, I put the cutting object, and now I have a separated profile. And then I used also the side profile because, as I mentioned, it's not a perfectly radiused shape. It's actually compressed on one side. So again, I separated out those curves here to use in the sweep command. So let me turn this off. Okay, so now you can kind of see a bit better what's happening. Hide that. All right, so I'm going to do it again. The cross section, and then the rails, and I want it to close. So you can see there, because it's kind of reading, what's happening is it's literally extruding these all together. But it's extruding based off of this radius. So if I were to just use, for instance, loft, which produces a surface between two curves, it's going to be flat, right? Oops. And that's not really what that particular item actually looks like. It's flat here, it's much more smooth. So the sweep command, again, and I'll show you, select the rail, and now the cross-section curves. So it's basically, it's joining the surfaces between these rails, trying to make sure I use the right terms, the rails, which are these outlines, based off the radius of this circle here. So I want it, to close, and so it's basically going to close the loop, and then I can ask it to rebuild it. So you can see here, it's added more cross sections, refit it, whichever one. So now I have my Downy bottle. And then the top is super easy. Oops, that was... So now I can, cap it, unable to cap, why? All right, I'll just have to So using the Control Shift and right click, I can grab that curve there. Oops. Nope. I'm going to do planar surface. Okay, so it's not planar. So I'll probably have to go in. What I would do is go in. Oh, so you can see the problem here. I can easily just chop that and make it flat. Using planar surface. Bring it up slightly. Use the split. So now I have more of a flat bottom. Get rid of that irregular bottom there. Bring this up here. Okay, let's see if I can cap this now. There we go. And now I can add these other details. Revolve again. I'll use revolve here. Oh. So using the gumball, I can kind of scale it. You want to be more accurate than I am being, of course. Close curve. I could also, same thing. This one will definitely be perfectly round. Oops. Why did that happen? My axis was not perpendicular. There we go. And now I have my candy bottle. Not so bad. Pretty close. You know, the goal is that you would try to get as close, as accurate as you can to the actual shape. But of course, that would be the aim. Just as close as you can. So now we'll do sweep 2. So this time I'm going to use, I'm going to set my rails for these two outlines. So in this one, the rail was the radius up top. In this case, I'm going to, the cross section or the rail was the circle at the top here because I wanted the profiles to be extruded based off that radius. For this one, because it's it has a much more complex shape because of the handle here, I'm going to now say, I'm basically saying that I want these curves here, these radius shapes, to extrude along this profile. Okay, so I'll show you what happens. So in this case, I can give it multiple cross sections. And now you can see how it's going to combine these shapes together. And now you can see the shape of, starting to come, the shape based off of those curves. So if we look at the, I think I am modeling this one now. Okay, so the shape, it's very close. What's missing is the the opening for the handle. So I can say, do not change cross sections, rebuild cross sections, refit cross sections again to get more accurate shape, a more accurate shape. I think that's close enough. It's auto saving. Let's wait for that to. Okay, that was weird. So okay, now I'm getting close to the actual form. I'm going to cap it because I want to start to Boolean now. So I'm going to take this opening, I'm going to extrude that, and then I'm going to bring back this shape, and I'm going to use Boolean difference. So the object to subtract from, the cutting object, and now I have my handle opening, but again, there are no hard edges here on this object. Everything is radius. So for this, I will use fillet edge. Again, different from fillet. I can give it a radius. I'm going to say 0.25 inch. See if that will work. It worked. And then all I need to do is do the same thing with the cap. So that's, one way to use the sweep, or the two different ways to use the sweep. The basic way, you can obviously, if you have a very symmetrical shape, sweep one is super simple, and you just give it the rail, again, the radius that I want, and then the shape that I want from that radius, and then there you go. Very simple. But when you start working on more complex objects that have they're not quite symmetrical, then you have to be more specific about the profile lines, like I was showing you in these two scenarios. So with this one, these outlines here are being extruded based off the radius. This radius that I have here of the circle. And in this example, these circular shapes are being extruded along these profile lines. So it just depends on what you're modeling. And sometimes it'll just be a bit of trial and error, like you saw me doing at the beginning, where I was trying to figure out which one comes first. It will probably take a bit of that. Okay, so now we're going to get to maybe a more complicated shape, which is this one here, the downy cleaner. So this one, it's a bit more difficult because it has this handle that's actually very thin. So what I want to do is separate, actually I want to model this downy without the handlebar first, and then I'm going to go in and add the handlebar. So some of you, depending on your objects, you may need to add to a base. So that will be this process that I show here. So again, you may need to go back and redraw your elevations so that you can get more accurate information out of them. So here I went back and I actually had to redraw this object so that the handlebar would be separated. And then again, I use the sweep commands. So I believe I used sweep 2, first rail, second rail, cross section. Yes. Okay. So I use sweep 2 again because I have this irregular shape, but I want to be precise about the radiuses. So again, while you may have drawn top views, right, you will more than likely want to draw more based off, depending on the shape of your the shape of the object you're modeling. So there's, now I'm starting to see the downy jar here. And now all I need to do is model these handlebars. So one way would be to use pipe. So pipe is the command. The command is pipe. And basically what's going to happen is it's going to create a extruded form based off of radiuses I give it. So the diameter, and actually I probably want to, in this case, I probably want to be more in the middle here. So what I'm going to do is offset. So offset is another command I use all the time when I'm making drawings. And basically, maybe we haven't covered this, but basically I can give it any curve and it will produce a offset of it based off of a set dimension. So here it's 0.459082. I don't know where that came from. I can also give it a distance. So I'm going to say from here to here. And then I don't want it to cap. No cap. None. None. No cap. There we go. So now I can try to use the pipe. And I can give it 2 different radiuses, as you can see here. And there it is. I mean, that's not great. Then I can try to, so again, using the Control-Alt, move it around. I can scale it. And it's close. I could also use loft. So if I have the specific radiuses I want, in this case, this one will be it's a bit more, it's not quite circular, a perfect circle. And then I can copy it around. Actually, no, I'm going to use sweep here, not loft. Oops. sweep. Two, and actually I probably don't need the middle one. Two, second rail. Nope. Sweep one, sorry. Sweep one. Select the rail because I want it to be extruded in this direction, and then I can give the cross sections. And now I have not a great handle because I didn't, the radius isn't very good. Make that fatter. Try that again. A bit better. Let's see if I give it a bit more. Oops. Looks like pipe is a better option. But if my curves were a bit better, then maybe the other one. That one's a bit nicer. Again, the quality of it will be based off of the curves that you were using. Let's see, Arctic. So I would need to go in, and for me, I would want to spend time making sure that there's a seamless connection so that you don't see any imperfect shapes there. Okay, let's see what else. What other ways? So then there's, hey Bob. Just another example of how to use the sweep, Boolean. So again, you want to use multiple actions, multiple commands in order to get these more complex objects. So here, there's this complex object that has this dynamic surface here. It has these ridges, but it also has, I believe it's maybe one of these, where the handle area gets kind of carved away, and then the handle is added on. So basically, again, and this one's a bit different in terms of how to deal with the handle. So, using the sweep again, and then now I'm going to use in order to get the shape, I'm going to use this outline profile to Boolean away. Bring that over here. Oops. There we go. To Boolean out that back area, like is shown in that, as I pointed out in that photo, this area. So in this case, I'm going to use split, Boolean split. So I'm going to give it the objects to split, and then the cutting object. And now I can delete that area and add my handle. In this case, this one's just extruded. So again, I mentioned before that you can extrude both ways. It's in the center, so I'm going to extrude both ways here. And then I'm going to radius. So I'm going to fillet edge. So that the handle is a bit smoother. Oops, that didn't work. So if it does something weird like that, that means your radius was too big. Probably need to reduce my radius. Yep. Say 0.12, so that's 1/8, right? Everyone's experts at scale now. Oops. Okay, it worked because my radius was correct. And again, it's going to be a bit of trial and error sometimes. There we go. Here's my bottle. Oh, that one didn't come out as well because of the rebuild. It's pretty close. Close enough, I would say. But again, you want to be as accurate as you can. All right. So for Wednesday, please model the complex, the third shelf category with the complex shapes. You will continue to produce renderings, so I want to see updates on the other two shelves based off of my comments from earlier. So thinking about reflective surfaces, matte surfaces based off of the specific affinities of the objects that you've modeled. So for instance, here there's kind of a matte finish versus the wood finish. And this object has a more glossy finish. So that's something to incorporate with your image it in your renderings. You're still going to use simple color schemes, but now you should apply colors based off of logic, color logics. So you can use the Adobe color. You can use two colors now for the new renderings for Wednesday. New renderings. So incorporating the diversity of objects and of object materials. So think about glass, shiny, textured. The examples where there was a high degree of accuracy in the shelf condition, so showing the labels, the ridges, if it's perforated, again, should be incorporated. Okay. Are there questions now? Here's the chat. The other aspect, actually, that I just remembered I forgot to mention, so some objects that you have labels and also have an inside material. So like this one here is the candle, right? You see the candle from inside of the object itself. The other ones would be like soda bottles, So that would be more information to add into the cylindrical shapes. So one way to you have your object, right, and you want to get that sticker, let's say that label that's on there, as a separated object. So you would use the command project. So what's going to happen here is I'm projecting this shape onto this surface. And some of you will have may have actually drawn this information in your elevation, so this will be useful for you to incorporate. So basically how that works is you need to have the item that you're going to project in front of the object. Then you're going to go into front view, or whichever side that object is that outline is on. So in this case, it's front. And then I'm going to, so it needs to be in an orthographic direction. So then I'm going to do project, select the curves and points. Wait, hold on. Let me delete so you can see how this works. Front, go to project, select the curves and points to project. Enter, select the surface, enter, and now I have that as a curve on this surface. So then the next thing I can do, and I'm going to make a copy because I don't want to always make copies so that you can always go back. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to split this. And now I have the surface. And now I can do offset surface, let's say 0.1 inch. So now I have the label. It's a bit exaggerated, the depth, but I think it's okay. Where did it go? I think it's because I have this.